Okay, so we haven't got anyone tweeting for us yet, so we're going to wait with this one, see how you go there on Twitter, and then we'll give away this book to the person who tweets us. In the meantime, we're going to get back to the questions here. And in the meantime, so let's get back to a question. Here's Rachel asking, in the similar vein to what was being asked before, why do bad things keep happening to me? It feels like I am drowning from all the stress. How can I see the light, if it is nowhere in sight?
Well, we learn in Kabbalah that what the Creator did in order to create our world was to conceal his light from us by 125 degrees. This system is set up for us to scientifically and gradually peel back these layers. And when we peel back these layers, we reveal a completely different world, a different reality. Our world is simply the absence of the light of the Creator. So the wisdom of Kabbalah is simply that method of revealing or of disintegrating what stands between us and the Creator, which is merely our egos, our desire to receive. And the medicine of Kabbalah, if you could call it such, is aimed precisely at chipping away at the layers of egoism that separate us from the Creator. And that's the reason for all of the bad things that manifest in our world.
Maybe in a more specific situation, Aspasia, you're Greek, Aspasia, he was asking, how can Kabbalah comfort me in my grief for my husband's abandonment? How can I recover from the suffering and pain when beloved persons leave and when we have to move on, all alone, suffering from the loss? Depression, pain, grief, loneliness, absence of love, ungratefulness. How can Kabbalah help me?
Sort of like welcome to our world, I think what she's saying is that is how most of us are perceiving this world. And one of the things that we have to understand, and Johnny did really a good job on, is the idea of perception and concealment. And Kabbalists oftentimes refer to our world as nothing more than a dream world. It's 1% of reality, while the spiritual world is 99% of reality. And so therefore, once again, as Johnny said, if we just chip away from this egoism and we learn how to come to what Kabbalah, the word Kabbalah means, is to receive, but to receive in order to give, then everything will be back into harmony. And the reason why all these things are taking place is to show us. It's no more than showing us that we need to come back to this idea of harmony and completeness and wholeness.
Let's say that I'm put in a situation where, or you're put in a situation where you have an ideal man. It happens to be the one that you don't have now. What we learn in Kabbalah is that our desire is something that we can't even identify yet. We have a greater, broader, more comprehensive self that we haven't yet realized. Kabbalah allows us to realize this self. And this self has a desire for something much greater than anything we know at this particular time. As I reveal this self, I may reveal to myself a reality, a partner, whatever it is that I can't even envision yet, but something greater than I can even imagine now. So that's what the wisdom of Kabbalah is really about, is revealing all the pleasure that's intended for me, specific to me, and my desire, what the Creator implanted in me. That's what we study.
All right, I'm getting notifications now as well from our producers saying that this book, no one's really on Twitter, everyone's on Facebook there. So if you're all there on Facebook, we're going to move it over to Facebook then. Everyone who comments on Facebook in the next 2 minutes, writing your impressions about this Q&A celebrations, and in general your impressions of Kabbalah in relation to this method. So we're going to give out this book to one of you who answers in the next 2 minutes. We're going to get into some more Q&A here and into another video soon, and then we'll draw this next winner. So if you're on Facebook, here's your chance to get yourself your own copy of Bail Yourself Out, How to Emerge Strong from the World Crisis. A great book there you can read while you're at the bus stop. And we're going to go into the next question here. A question by Laura Harris, who is asking, is it true that in order to understand the nature of Kabbalah, one must understand the Torah? If so, how in depth must you know the Torah before you can experience the Zohar?
Well, one of the misconceptions is the word Torah itself. Torah, it means Kabbalah. It means the study of Kabbalah. So it does not mean the Torah, the book, or whatever it is. It oftentimes refers to the study of Kabbalah.
Okay. And Alejandro Richter, I think I'm getting your name pronounced wrong, but I'm sorry about that. He says, hi, my name is Alejandro. I am an observant Jew, or so I thought. I have been studying Kabbalah for 2 years now, and the more that I study Kabbalah, the less important Jewish tradition seems to have for me as a religion. I'm starting to see it more like my cultural background. Now, the question is this a normal process while studying Kabbalah? Is it okay to feel like this? And the last question, does the kashrut have a meaning in Kabbalah, and if so, what are the benefits of it?
Well, very quickly, it is a natural process because, as the sages write, a mitzvah without an intention is like a body without a soul. So, carrying out these physical mitzvot, it doesn't give the Creator any pleasure, as Chaim Vital, the primary student of the great Kabbalist, the R.E., wrote that the only time the Creator receives pleasure, which is our goal, is during the study of the Kabbalah. So there you have it, a great Kabbalist advice on the matter. All of the mitzvot have spiritual roots, but they're not the physical actions themselves. So we studied the Kabbalah in order to acquire this intention, called the intention to bestow, or as Kabbalists call it, the kavanah. And when we have this kavanah, and we're carrying out these mitzvot, which aren't physical actions, but then we're doing what we're supposed to do according to the Creator.
All right. Well, we have people writing in Facebook, left, right, and center. Now we see where you are. So we have Florian Handshin. Sorry again for pronouncing your name wrong. That's your book, Bail Yourself Out. And we're going to also answer your question here, where you wrote, what are the Kabbalistic views on death?
On death?
Yeah.
Truly, the Kabbalists sit there and say that a body, I mean our physical body, our flesh, bones, whatever it is no more than what they say is like taking off your shirt and throw it in the laundry. The only thing that really is important is your soul. Therefore, the body is really not considered that important.
Yeah, this world is described as an imaginary world, and as Chris said, Rabash, the great Kabbalist whose method we study, said that for a Kabbalist, changing bodies is like changing shirts. I mean, imagine what state you would have to be in where you say, dying and going into another body, it's just like I'm changing my shirt.
Okay, here's another question by Jamie. Jamie is asking, how can the Messiah possibly come if everyone's soul has to be completely corrected first? Looks like Jamie's been studying our materials a bit, so maybe you can reflect on that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Messiah comes from a word in Hebrew that means pulling force. Messiah means the general correction of everyone in the world. It's not a person. It's this general force of love and bestowal that inheres among all people from around the world. And the wisdom of Kabbalah was only devised just for this purpose, to bring about this plan of creation. All the secrecy over all the years of these mystics studying in caves and all of that was only to carry on this wisdom throughout the generations until our time, called the generation of the Messiah, when everyone would have their egoism developed to such a state where they would realize that there's nothing in this world that really brings true fulfillment. And the fulfillment that we realize is in the connection between us, in bestowal and love. And that's called the force of the Messiah. Go ahead, Chris.
You know, being raised religious and everything, part of this idea of the coming of the Messiah, the way I was raised, was it meant that everything was coming to an end. It meant death, whatever it is. And the coming of the Messiah actually is a great time to be living. We're living in a beautiful time because now Kabbalah is open to all. Our egoism has reached a state that now there is no more hiddenness, so-called hiddenness, of Kabbalah. It can be studied by all, no matter, like we said in the beginning of the program, it's any age, any sex, gender, whatever you want to know, but it's open to all. It's not a state of death as we know it. In fact, if it's anything, it's a very great stage of life to be living in.
Okay, that's very close to another question, because for a lot of people the Messiah is thought of as a living, breathing person. So Stephen's asking exactly about this. He's saying, is the Mashiach, or the coming of the Messiah, a living, breathing person, or is it simply a spiritual state within me? In other words, what is the Messiah?
Yeah, it's a spiritual state within you, and it's a spiritual state among all of us. So the answer is twofold. On the one hand, the entire world is inside of you. And on the other hand, all of those so-called people that we seem to see outside of us, it's also in your relationship towards them. When you have an attitude of bestowal towards all of them, which is what we'll be learning this semester, is how to change our quality of reception into a quality of bestowal. And it's all in our attitude. When this is your attitude, you'll see that the attitude of everyone else will be different as well. It's a field of love, and that's really the definition of the Messiah.
Oftentimes, I think we try to figure out what the Creator is. We try to depict him as a person with a white beard and everything else. We have that because we have no other. We don't know who the Creator is, and that is the purpose of Kabbalah, is to reveal what the Creator is, and that Creator is a force. And what that force is exactly, I don't know.
As we said, one of the purposes for the Q&A celebration is to start breaking down some of these misconceptions about Kabbalah. And, we have lots and lots of questions here just asking about that, trying to clarify what is Kabbalah, what is it not, and all these kinds of things. And our next question and answer is actually going to be in a video with Dr. Michael Laitman. And a little bit about this video. This is one of many videos we're going to be putting on this new website that we're just in the final stages of making. We have the beta version of it up now. It's called the Kabbalah channel, and it's available at tv.kabbalah.info. That's the site of the Kabbalah channel. Soon you'll see it, with banners and everything nice everywhere. But for now, we're going to play for you one of these shows from the channel. It's an interview between Andrew Martin, one of our friends here at B'nai Baruch, together with Dr. Michael Laitman, our teacher, where he's asking him questions. The series is called Paths. And he's asking Dr. Laitman one of the questions, basic questions that seekers who come from all kinds of searches through their life, who've been through many different teachings, looking for that something that's going to give them that fulfillment. And it's natural that when you've gone through all these teachings, you come to Kabbalah, and you're already trying to make all these connections between what you've already learned and what Kabbalah is offering. So Paths is all about that. That's the show Paths, and we're going to see one of these episodes right now. Also, what you can do while we go into it, as well as asking your questions on the side of this screen at kabbalah.info/live, we're also taking your questions at Facebook now. I'm getting them flying into me now here. So you can also ask your questions at Facebook on the Kabbalahinfo page there. That's facebook.com/Kabbalahinfo, and we have that tool just below the screen where you can ask them right there. And yeah, another thing you might want to do is tell your friends about this. No need to keep it to yourself. There's a Tell Your Friends banner at the bottom of the page there. And by emailing this to your friends and getting them to come during this event now, we already have over 500 people here now, where we started with about 200. So thank you all for doing this great work and inviting your friends. So just by clicking on that and putting in emails of your friends, you also get to download some great material, interviews between Dr. Michael Laitman and all kinds of personalities such as Moby, Steve Rubel, talking about all kinds of topics related to their profession, music, technology, business, other spiritual methods. So, I could keep talking all night long, but let's just go into this episode of Paths with Andrew Martin and Dr. Michael Laitman.
Cobb TV. Watch your life make sense.
The word spirituality is, let's say, overused in today's society. I mean, it's ascribed to just about anything non-physical. If you go to yoga class, you go camping, you go, I got really spiritual this weekend. And it can be confusing to the individual because spirituality should be something special or unique or highly elevated. So is there a way we could define spirituality? I mean, is it something, could it mean something non-local or it's something non-physical? Is this the way we could say it?
Well, first I would say it's typical of this time that everyone wants spirituality. It didn't exist 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago. People didn't talk about spirituality that much. So it's a special time for a spiritual revelation. But nobody knows what spirituality is. And spiritual is something opposite from our nature.
But we have a lot of people in our society saying, I know exactly what spirituality is. You attain it this way. I sit on a yoga mat and I meditate and I attain this universal force or tap into it. So they say this, so...
How do you know it's like that? Nobody knows. Precisely because there are so many views, it's a sign we don't know what spirituality really is.
But can't the individual determine? Can't somebody through their senses determine if they're...
Well, I know, I only know one thing. I live in nature, which is entirely egoistic. It's all about absorbing, receiving for me, for my own benefit. There can only be something else that I know can exist, the opposite of that.
Okay.
Because in the whole of nature, we always have plus and minus, something in its opposite. So if our nature is all about receiving, absorbing, then there is something opposite, which is all about giving, emitting. And that is probably what we can define as spirituality, as opposed to our nature, our place, which is called corporeality.
So any then imagination or invention of something spiritual within that receptive state can't be spirituality. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying.
No. We can't imagine what spirituality is because we're all just within the nature of receiving, absorbing only into us.
So you're saying that the spirituality does in fact have parameters or a quality to it, and that is giving.
Opposite from our own.
So opposite for our own. We can't actually ascribe a quality to spirituality. We can just say through negation it's opposite or different than our own.
We can't even know what opposite means. If I know only about darkness, I don't know what light is. If I know only about sour, I can't know that there is something else that says sweet.
So then the individual, all these individuals that ascribe different paths or different methodologies to attain this are speaking from a place where it's impossible to know.
All a lie. It's a complete lie. Nobody knows what spirituality is. That's why there are so many views. And to this day, we don't know. Out of all these methods, we don't know what spirituality really is.
So then how does globalization, bringing these methods together in something like, we could talk about something like New Age, which is basically taking the world's traditions and fusing them together in these new hybrid belief systems and methodologies. Are we getting to a point closer to defining and to...
No, we can't. There's nothing we can do with it. Because what turns out is that, again, we work with our own substance, our own heart, our own desire, our own brains, which are all about the desire to receive, the corporeality, the reception, and not giving. We don't know. We don't have that software, that ability to know what giving means. There's got to be some alien force here from the spiritual dimension that will come to me and give me the spiritual nature instead of my current nature. And if we knew how to invert that inclination to the opposite, to giving outwardly instead of inwardly, both in our desires and in thoughts, then we would go to a completely different dimension of sensation, to perceiving what's outside of us, and then call that spirituality. But you can see that people are escaping it. They find all kinds of things. They take antidepressants, they take drugs, they
Feed the animal
they
more.
go into these,
Change.
okay, meditations. They find all kinds of things. You see, look at the economic crisis and all the crises. Everyone's saying everything's fine. Yeah, we're coping. They don't want to see the bad.
That was just one of the many videos that is going to be on our Kabbalah channel at tv.kabbalah.info. You can already go and check those out, but we're going to be bringing out this channel more officially fairly soon. Here we are at the Q&A celebration. We get word that more and more people are coming in, so I'll just introduce it briefly again. So the Q&A celebration, it's a celebration for the upcoming Learning Center course that starts next week. We're just so excited by giving these courses, and there's always this break in between each one. So we're thinking, what do we do now that we can't, teach for a couple of weeks? So we come up with these Q&A celebrations, and it's a great opportunity to get any questions you have asked, questions about Kabbalah or questions just about life, because really Kabbalah covers the whole of life and how to work on our attitude towards life in order to reach a perfect state. That's really what the wisdom of Kabbalah is about. So if you're interested in joining our course at the Learning Center, you can click the banner below where it says Free Kabbalah Course and sign up for it. It's a free course. There's a fundamental semester, there's an intermediate semester, an advanced semester, there's self-study materials. If you don't get your question answered tonight, we're getting hundreds of questions and we're sure we can't get to all of them. So we apologize for that, but you can take your questions straight away when you go to the Learning Center to the student forum. And there are instructors there and moderators who answer on the forum. You get access to teachers such as Gianni and Chris each week, where you can ask your questions during each lesson and get them answered live. So we very much recommend the Learning Center course for anyone who's got a curiosity about Kabbalah and how it can help them, what it can do for them in life. And also books are a great way to learn about Kabbalah. We're giving away lots of books tonight, and we're going to give away this next book, Awakening to Kabbalah by Dr. Michael Laitman. This is actually, out of all the books we're giving away tonight, unfortunately we don't have a free version of this book. For all of the books we have tonight, if you go to the bottom of the screen here at kabbalah.info/live, you'll see all the books there and PDF versions, except for this one. That's because we'd like to, but we just can't, because this is an external publisher, Jewish Lights, published these books, and according to all kinds of legal things, we're not able to give this book away for free. So, but this is a great book for anyone who, for anyone who is interested in the wisdom of Kabbalah. But you could say that the emphasis on this book is for a lot of people who come to Kabbalah from a Jewish background, and a lot of people coming from a Jewish background learn a lot of things in their life, such as mitzvot, and just like any religion has its customs and its traditions. And then in Kabbalah you find that all these terms that you've gotten accustomed to in Judaism really have a completely different meaning, where they don't relate to the physical world at all, but they only relate to the spiritual world and internal work. And Kabbalah puts like a whole spin on everything a person learnt in Judaism. As we studied earlier, that one doesn't have to be Jewish to study Kabbalah, because Kabbalah is all about inner work and spiritual work. And so this is a great book for clarifying those things. So to one of the people here who asked questions specifically coming from a Jewish background, we're giving you this book. That's Alejandro Richter. So we hope you enjoy this book. We hope it helps you. We hope it helps you get deeper into Kabbalah. So congratulations, Alejandro. And we're going to get back into the questions. And we have a question here. Now we'll get into all kinds of questions. We have a question here by Jennifer, who is asking, what are the Kabbalist views on homosexuality?
Well, as Marcos just said regarding the mitzvot, for example, everything that we study isn't about our world. Everyone was put into our world in order to correct their soul. What one realizes along the path of Kabbalah is something above all of these considerations, above race, gender, sex, and sexuality. So it's simply not part of our study. If one engages in Kabbalah with the correct intention, one makes all the corrections that they need to make, and we don't worry about these external things.
All right. Okay, here Roxana Fuentes is asking on Facebook, how come we see only men during the lessons with the Rav? Where are the women?
She got us. The truth is there's a deep spiritual reason for this. And I'm going to just brush on it really quickly. It's that the woman is the desire, and the man in our mutual spiritual work is called the masak, meaning the screen on the desire, which allows us to turn this desire into a will to bestow. Now, we all have a male and female part within us, and there's a lot of complexity to this question. So I'll put it in just a simple way for now, and then we'll discuss it more in the semester, which is, how much serious spiritual work do you think is going to get done with a room full of beautiful women? It'd be simply impossible for men to focus. We'd start beating each other up, and that's essentially, a simple reason for now. But there's very serious spiritual roots, and we'll discuss that all during the semester.
Slight distraction, huh?
All right. Izet Karagakli is asking, once again I apologize for getting your names wrong in the pronunciation, if that's your real name. Where do thoughts come to our mind from? Can we control them, or are we a victim while they come to our mind?
Well, as we learn, a human being isn't what it seems to us. A human being is a desire, much more comprehensive, much larger than we actually perceive. Through the wisdom of Kabbalah, we attain more and more of what this desire truly exists. What was the question again?
The question, it says, where do thoughts come to our mind from?
So the thoughts come to our mind from this desire. Thoughts are an upshot of the desire. So we have this huge will to receive that's constantly feeding into us all these different thoughts that are conducive to this desire, but we're not necessarily aware of all of the aims of that desire. So the thoughts sometimes come from more of a surface level that we can understand, and sometimes they come from a much, much deeper level. Levels that we can't even perceive.
All right. Christoph Zoran is asking, I would like to know if there is any connection between Kabbalah and the Bible, and if so, what is it?
The connection between Kabbalah and the Bible is that it depends what you mean by Bible. Kabbalists refer to the five books of Moses as a comprehensive explanation and exploration of the entire spiritual path along all 125 degrees of the spiritual path that we make from below upwards from our current degree to complete adhesion with the Creator. It was written in such a time where, this document was so stark that nobody would have taken it as being some sort of religious document. People understood that all of these things that happen in the Bible, Moses goes here, the people of Israel go there, all of this is within one person. And all of the things that happen represent different phases of the will to receive, called the ego, along the path of correction.
So it's not the study of externality, it's the study of internality.
Yeah, it's not talking about history at all.
Okay, I think you've answered this question earlier on, but since we have so many new people coming on, we'll ask this question in the way it's phrased here. I kind of like the way it's phrased. Jose Alvarado is asking, what does Kabbalah have that religion doesn't have?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I I think we talked about this a little bit earlier in the program, and one of the things, a lot of religions, there's a promise that if you are good, you follow these rules, you keep on doing what we're asking you to do, you will finally die, and then you will reach all this, what we promised you, all this good, all this reward. And Kabbalah is saying, why wait? You could experience it now. It is not to experience when you're dead. You experience it now. And that to me is a huge, huge difference between what Kabbalah is and what spirituality, or not spirituality, but religion is.
All right. Just Bia is asking, how do I avoid being viewed as some kind of witch and being into magic because I'm into Kabbalah? I want to spread the word. Obviously, Just Bia is studying with us. So she's saying, I want to spread the word, and I don't want to lie when someone wants to know my religious or spiritual view. But society is still very stuck with the perception that this form of spirituality is unholy. I experience a lot of negative feedback, especially in the workplace.
Well, generally, I think it's not a good idea to necessarily talk about it during the workplace, simply because we learn that as Kabbalists, we have to go to work, seem just like everybody else, maybe a little better. But basically, we just want to live our lives normally, and we have all sorts of opportunities for spreading this wisdom outside of the workplace where we can impact many, many more people than, our close-knit circle of friends or acquaintances at work. So, it's better to just kind of maintain a balance there. Go to work, go home, and then there are many ways to spread this wisdom.
In the other sense, too, I think the world is opening up with outstretched arms about Kabbalah, because even though they have this idea, it is a little bit different, a little bit mysticism. If you really go through even the books, take a look at the number of books being written today. There are thousands and thousands of them, and 10 years ago, there was very few books being even put out there, but now it's even becoming kind of like pop. You have Madonna, you have Mick Jagger that's associated with it, you have Barbara Streisand. I'm not saying that is what we call authentic Kabbalah, but nonetheless, I think Kabbalah is almost kind of hip nowadays.
And besides, the authentic version of Kabbalah that we study is now completely, it's pretty much supported by scientific evidence. For instance, there's 10 Sefirot. Quantum physicists have revealed that there's 10 dimensions with 6 coiled into one. Just like we learned there's 10 Sefirot with 6 coiled into one. There's time doesn't exist. You can talk to, opticians, an eye doctor, anybody who knows anything about optics, they'll tell you that the world is completely inside of you. So what I'm saying is it's possible to discuss these things about the theories and about, egoism, and I think that people can understand them pretty much in general terms without using the word Kabbalah, if that's what sets people off. I often talk to people at my job about the principles and about the necessity for connection, but without saying, it's Kabbalah, it's this mystical tradition. There's no need for that. So that's a simple way to get around that problem.
Okay, great. One thing I notice here, and in general in Kabbalah, is that even though you mightn't get your specific question answered, you'll find that a lot of answers to other people's questions already start answering your questions. I noticed Roxanne just said something like that on Facebook, that she's very thankful, and a lot of her questions have been answered. So, this happens this way. And another thing we also recommend, as well as signing up for the Learning Center, where you're able to get have more opportunities to ask questions and get them answered there. If you're at Kabbalah.info live, Kabbalah.info/live now watching us, just go to the banner below and click the free Kabbalah course banner if you're not signed up to the Learning Center already, and you can sign up for it there. We recommend telling your friends about it. There's no need to keep it all to yourself, at least in this beginner stage of just learning basically what is Kabbalah, what is not Kabbalah. Everyone's welcome here at this stage. and everyone's welcome all the way through. It's just your desire. You start clarifying whether this is the path or this is the path you want or not. And it's a great opportunity to start learning a bit more of how the wisdom of Kabbalah is not religion, how it's not mysticism, how it's not all these things that it's commonly thought to be. So that's one of the goals of tonight, and we're going to continue asking some questions. The next question is it's talking about the different organizations of Kabbalah. Carlos is asking, I'm wondering about the different teaching approaches between the Kabbalah Learning Center, the B'nai Baruch one, which we are teaching from, and the Kabbalah Center, which is based in Los Angeles, which seems to be very popular. Are they essentially the same? If not, or if so, what are some of the differences?
There's really no comparison except that we use the same word, Kabbalah. There's nothing wrong with one or the other. It's simply a matter of stages of development. For example, many people who study with B'nai Baruch, they started with all sorts of different spiritual paths, and they went through these in rather quick succession because they didn't find fulfillment there. Some people studied yoga for like a few months. It was very promising to begin with, and then wasn't so promising after that. And it's the same way with any other spiritual path. What we study is an authentic, proven method that anybody in our generation has the ability to employ and implement into their life, and with adequate desire in quantity and quality, they can reach all of these things that we're talking about during their lifetime.
We're throwing out this term authentic, Johnny, a lot. What is this meaning, authentic?
Authentic means, well, there's such a thing as a teaching lineage in Kabbalah. And our teaching lineage goes all the way back through the ages. And it culminated really in Yehuda Ashlag, known as Bala Sulam, his son and primary disciple, Rabash, and our teacher, Dr. Michael Lightman. So authentic Kabbalah means that I'm studying authentic sources with an authentic teacher, and I'm employing all of the methods that Kabbalists said we need to employ, and nothing else. The nothing else is kind of an important thing. We don't need anything like holy water, we don't need to wear any red strings or anything like that. In fact, the Ari, the greatest Kabbalist, he specifically forbade that you would wear such a thing. Not that it's bad, it can give you a sort of psychological comfort, but the fact of the matter is authentic Kabbalah is engaged solely in one thing, the correction of the soul. And we have all of the components necessary for that, and we don't want anything else that might confuse us. And that's the only reason why anything is supposedly forbidden. We just don't want to confuse ourselves.
So authentic Kabbalah is speaking about spirituality. It is not talking about corporeality. And there's a huge difference in that regard.
Yeah, and to the extent that our corporeal world changes, it's only to the extent that we're first implementing this intention, we're correcting our egos, and then we might see a different picture of reality, but not that we address the corporeal reality. First, I want this or that in this world. We start with the plan of creation, which is to correct our soul, and then we see what unfolds around us.
A question that popped up there while you were answering that was by Cynthia, who's saying, isn't saying Kabbalah is the only way divisive? Doesn't it create like a division?
Totally divisive.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, Kabbalah is something that you don't have to believe. So whether or not it's divisive, I think truly, for example, if I'm a rabbi, or if I'm a yoga instructor and I feel that I can attain peace through these methods and I feel that I can attain spirituality, then to say that there's something else that's not that, and that's what Kabbalists call spirituality, then that's a little bit divisive. But fortunately, we have a method, as we said, that anybody can implement. So you try it on yourself. If it's not for you, then it's not for you. And nobody's asking you to study. And people who are interested in other methods, as long as it's fulfilling to them, I'm all for it.
One of the things, too, is, in my mind, what is a Kabbalist? We're using this term all the time. And Is it mean I'm just studying Kabbalah? Or I wrote a book about Kabbalah? Is that what a Kabbalist is?
A Kabbalist is defined very simply. A Kabbalist is one who has crossed what's called this maksom. It's this barrier between our world that we perceive now and what's called the spiritual world. And it's so concrete. It's not something that's airy, kind of up in the clouds. It's something rock hard in our world. It's sort of like someone who lives in a two-dimensional world. Let's say, like, here's my house, and here's my work, and here's me. And all I do is I go to home and I go to work. That's my life. If you tell me that there's a possible third dimension, I'm going to tell you that that's mysticism. That I don't want to hear anything about it, because where would it fit? I don't understand. Now, we live in a three-dimensional reality, and I'm bringing it back to two dimensions to understand, to sort of convey the reality of these extra layers of my world that can be revealed to me. It's as if many extra dimensions. So a Kabbalist is somebody who has entered already this spiritual reality, and then they tell us about it. Or rather, they don't tell us about it, they tell us how to attain it ourselves.
All right. We're going to go into another break now. And again, it's not an ad break. We're going to show another show from the Kabbalah channel. As you see, Gianni enjoys drawing. Gianni is also the host of another show on the channel, which is called Paperclips. And this is really just a short show, very interesting, and before I can say a whole lot more words about it, you might as well have seen the clip by then. It's a 1-minute clip, so let's go and watch it, and we'll come straight back and answer some more of your questions.
Cobb TV. Watch your life make sense.
It's natural to be like nature. Billions of years ago, the Earth was a flaming ball of gases. A battle between the hot forces and the cold forces raged on for millions of years until the cold forces prevailed at last, forming a solid outer crust sustainable for life to exist and evolve. The ongoing war between these forces is waged in every particle of existence, up to the human degree where they go by the names altruism and egoism. Only until now, humanity has used the egoistic force alone, with no counterbalance, and the ball of flames and rubble we see now in our social and economic machines is a symptom of our truancy. We need to build machines like the evolution machine of nature. We need a cooling force to balance the global egoistic inferno.
All right, we're going to give out our next book. This book is a very special book. This book's called Attaining the Worlds Beyond. It's this book was written, it's a huge book as well, if you see here. It's a book, again, by Dr. Michael Laitman. This was written after Dr. Michael Laitman's teacher, Rabash, died. And, you know, this is always a very transitional, very special period for Kabbalists. And after Rabash died, Dr. Laitman sat in his apartment by himself and wrote this book. Basically, he didn't really write this book. He wrote just endlessly for a couple of weeks, just like this big flow of thoughts. And later on, that was organized into this composition, which is called Attaining the Worlds Beyond. Everyone who's read this book or listened to the audio version of this book, there's also an audio version, very, very impressed by it. It's very deep, it's very flowing. It's also one of these books where you can just open it at any place and start receiving impressions. It's not a book you have to go through from beginning to end. And many people keep this book close to them from, you know, when they begin studying Kabbalah to, you know, years in advance. It's a book that accompanies many people. A lot of energy in this book, and it's probably one of the most emotional books put out by Dr. Laitman. You know, very flowing. So we're going to give this book out to Betty Perdomo. who's asked a question just recently here. And Betty is asking, do Kabbalists believe in angels, archangels, and ascended masters?
Well, you just saw that clip on the Zohar, and it does refer to angels. But what a Kabbalist rather means by angels is a force. Gravity, that's an angel. I didn't expect that angel to drop it all the way on the ground, but that's what we call an angel. It's simply a force. So we learn different kinds of angels, and we gradually start identifying them by way of understanding how the ego interacts with our reality, these forces that operate upon us. That's what angels are.
Okay. And I'll just remind as well that all the books we're giving away tonight are at the bottom of this page here that you see here, Kabbalah.info/live. If you go to the bottom of the page, you'll be able to both download the free PDF versions of the books, and there's also links to purchase them if you'd like your own physical copies. And we're again reminding that this is a Q&A celebration where we're celebrating the upcoming Learning Center course, which is starting next week. The Learning Center course will be a 10-lesson fundamentals course in the wisdom of Kabbalah. It's the most recommended thing we offer for a person who's interested in Kabbalah and is curious about it and wants to learn more about it. There you have the ability to ask your questions, just like you're asking us tonight, and get them answered live. If your questions don't get answered live, you can take them to the student forum, where there's instructors and moderators who answer them between lessons. And there's also self-study materials, so if you sign up like right now, you can already start studying the free materials there in the self-study section. And if you're on the web page now at Kabbalah.info/live, you can just go down to the banner where it says Free Kabbalah Course, click that banner, and then on the next page you'll be able to fill in your details and sign up to that. And the first lesson starts at the exact same time next week as we are now, meaning starting at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. That's for the Americas course. There's also another course running parallel on the same night, Wednesday, 4th of August, at 8 o'clock p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So for all of you in England and Europe, or in general, if that time suits you better, I think that's 4 o'clock Eastern Time. So you might even like to watch it in the afternoon if you'd like. So that's the Learning Center course for you. And Cynthia here is also asking, you haven't mentioned the Tree of Life. Isn't that going to be studied in this course? So what's with the Tree of Life, and what books do we study in B'nai Baruch?
We studied the Tree of Life, but it's not central to our study the way it is in some other places, because the Tree of Life refers to the ascension that we make through the spiritual worlds. That's called the Tree of Life. It's called that I'm receiving the lights of the Creator. I'm receiving the qualities of bestowal. So we don't study it in an academic way, the way that it's studied. The Tree of Life is something that we have to attain. So we study the method of Kabbalah, and we peel back those layers of egoism that we've been talking about. And by that, we actually attain what's called the Tree of Life. So talking about it specifically, directly, that's not really our approach.
So let's take a look. What books do we really study? We study Ari, Bala Salam, Robash, and I'm missing one, Johnny. I think that's it.
Oh, she was talking about the actual book by the Ari called The Tree of Life.
Tree of Life, yeah.
Okay. So we don't study it directly. We study Bala Sulam's commentary on the Tree of Life. So we study it, but we study it with his commentary, because he's sort of like an adapter for our generation. It's like when you go to Europe and you have to get a special kind of adapter in order to plug your phone into the wall. That's what Bala Sulam is to the Ari. So we do study the Tree of Life. I misunderstood the question.
Yeah, Bala Sulam, just for anyone who doesn't know, Bala Sulam is the nickname that was given to Kabbalist Yehuda Ashlag. And he's considered the most renowned, greatest Kabbalist of the 20th century. In terms of what he did, he is the only Kabbalist in history who did commentaries on the Tree of Life and on the Zohar. And we use his interpretations of these writings in what we study. And you'll be able to find out why and etc. during the course. But just to make that clear, And here we have a question by, I'm sorry if I get your name mispronounced, Gigi Manawis, who is asking, I work with women in the beauty business. It seems that women can never get enough of anything. Happiness, money, love, beauty, etc. How can Kabbalah define a woman's role so that women can be more truly fulfilled?
Well, here's the thing about women in Kabbalah. A woman instinctively understands that there's a great fulfillment in Kabbalah. For a man, it's something much more difficult to do. So how can a woman truly be fulfilled? Well, that's why women are drawn to Kabbalah, because they understand that this correction is something that has to happen, and it has to happen with women and men. The reason why women understand this is because women are much closer to nature, i.e. to the Creator. Until man enters the spiritual world, it's a little bit harder for him. But both men and women can find a way to truly fulfill themselves, something that doesn't happen in this world, through the wisdom of Kabbalah.
All right, let's take it back to some really fundamental questions, not even Kabbalah with the word Kabbalah in them, but fundamental questions of life. Probably things you asked yourself when you were 6 years old and then didn't ask yourself throughout the whole of life until you reach 50, these kinds of questions. We'll start out with DJ M, who's asking, what's my purpose in life?
Your purpose in life is to be able to receive, all this unbounded love that the Creator has given us. The Creator created the creature to pleasure all of creation. And what we have to be able to do, in the word Kabbalah once again means to receive, is we have to use this word to receive, meaning to receive in order to give. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, Kabbalah is the art or science of reception. What we'll learn during the Coming Up Fundamentals course is that it's too complex to go into right now, but there's a restriction placed upon our world so that we will chase pleasures endlessly, but whenever we reach the object of our desire, the pleasure immediately is evacuated, so that all we can do from that point is go on to a new pleasure. There's a saying that a person who has $1 million will want $2 million, and so on. All receiving allows you to do is to create a new desire. So the purpose of creation and the purpose of Kabbalah is to teach a person or adapt a person so that they're able to receive pleasures. And the pleasures that we're talking about are much greater fulfillments than anything that we can imagine.
I've heard also, like you were saying, Johnny, that all the pleasures one experiences as positive pleasures on earth, that we say are positive pleasures on earth, are like 1 degree in spirituality. And as you said, it's just unbounded pleasure.
Yeah, they say that a drop of pleasure from the spiritual light of this light of the Creator that He intended to bestow upon us in the purpose of creation that you're asking about is equivalent or greater than all the pleasures that were received by human beings throughout the course of human existence. And that's just the minimal drop from the spiritual world.
It's a lot of pleasure.
That's too much pleasure to handle.
Let's get there.
Let's expand on this question. Well, actually, let's let Fari Yoro expand on this question with 3 questions all in one. Really encompassing it nicely, Far is doing. What's the point of human existence? How did it all start? Where is it all going? And what's the end game?
Okay, so the point of human existence was, first of all, to delight the creatures, to fill them with boundless pleasures. But the means to this happens within our ego. Time, for example, is a phenomena of our ego. We perceive that we're in this world in which the Creator has concealed His light from us. So our purpose in life is to reveal this light. As it's written, I have created the evil inclination, meaning our world that we see around us now, and I have created the Torah spice, meaning I have given you an opportunity to rise above this corporeal world that we live in to a boundless, infinite existence, above time, above death, above suffering. Now, what was the second part of his question?
Okay, saying what's the purpose of human existence? How did it all start? Where is it going? What's the end game?
So it started human existence, if you're asking about our corporeal level, which doesn't really even exist. It developed along normal channels of development, evolution, just like you learn in school, essentially. The beginning of what's called, Kabbalists call human existence, is with Adam. He's called the first man because he's the first person who had what we call a point in the heart, which is a desire for spirituality. It's a spark of the Creator. Now, the end game is that all of these sparks that were implanted into human beings are kind of hidden in these corporeal bodies, in these will to receives, these egos that make it seem like we should hate each other because we're separate. The end game is when all of humanity realizes this wisdom, which adapts us towards each other. We're sort of like croutons in a soup. We're just croutons sitting at the bottom of this soup bowl, and all we can do is kind of rub up against each other. Doesn't feel good to be next to one another. The light of the Creator that's revealed through the wisdom of Kabbalah kind of meshes us together, and it allows us to reveal this love between us. And that's the end game, and that's the whole plan of creation, because it's only among people around the world that we can reveal it. The spiritual world is revealed between people in the quality of bestowal.
Okay, we're going to give out our next prize now. And the next prize, unfortunately, I don't have it here with me to hold. I like holding things. But, well, it's in a form that can't be held. It's music. And it's 3 discs of music of Kabbalah, discs of melodies by Baal HaSulam, by the Kabbalist Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag. And, this is very great music. It's whether someone's into Kabbalah or not, you'll always enjoy this music. Maybe you guys want to say something about the music?
Well, just imagine all of music comes from a sort of poetic relationship to our world. It's a feeling about how we feel within our will to receive, which is we learn is the substance of creation. And Baal HaSulam is writing these melodies from a state called the will to bestow, from a place of infinite love. And it's something that can only be expressed really musically. So it's just beautiful music.
Yeah. Since you took my explanation of the music, I'll answer this next question of the person who won this 3 CD set. The person's name is Felisa Beffa, who wrote to us on Facebook and asked this question: can someone who is mentally ill correct themselves, for example, schizophrenia? So someone who has mental illness, such as schizophrenia or any other kind of mental illness, generally it's recommended that you work on, just like with anything in life, work on stabilizing your mental state. You're able to absorb Kabbalistic materials, and it's recommended to absorb them and have them in your environment. But it's generally recommended that you work to stabilize your illness, your state. Same thing as, if a person who's in pain with their leg, they'll need to go through a period of getting, their leg treated. So along with the treatments for the mental illness and trying to stabilize yourself with the mental illness, yes, after you work on stabilizing yourself, and then you can work to correct yourself. So definitely. Now we're going to go into another break. We have to leave soon. I actually have a flight to catch, so we are kind of limited by time. So we're going to ask just a couple more questions here. Azru, who is asking, why has there been such a long wait to reveal Kabbalah, and why is it only in 1995 that it started getting shared and spread around the world?
Well, to tell you the truth, anyone who wanted to study Kabbalah could, if the desire was strong enough. But Kabbalists set up all sorts of barriers to keep people away. So you had to be 40 years old, you had to be a man, you had to be married, you had to jump through all these hoops of fire. And if you still had the desire for it, then you could study. The only people who had that desire were just a handful, sometimes one in an entire generation. And those were the people who studied the wisdom of Kabbalah. You mentioned the year 1995. it's mentioned in the Zohar that in this year, human egoism would reach a state where it can no longer can't satisfy a person in this world. As soon as they receive what they want, they will no longer feel the pleasure from it. So we're in a situation where even if the Kabbalists try to reject you with all these different, if a Kabbalist tells me I can't study till I'm 40, I'm saying, I'm going to go ahead and study. I mean, you can't stop me because nothing else can fulfill me. So that's why Kabbalists reserved opening up this wisdom until the human ego developed to such a stage where we can't satisfy ourselves with anything in this world. We need to work with what we have in this world, but we also need the pleasures of the spiritual world. We need something above this world.
All right. I'm going to change a bit of what's happening here with the technical stuff. So technical guys, listen to me now. We're going to go into another video now. The video we're going to go into, guys, make it video number 7. This video I'll introduce now. This is another video from the Kabbalah channel, video number 7. It's a music video by one of the friends here in Bnei Baruch, Jose Santos. It's called Let Go of the Ego. I want to play this. As we talked about before, the Kabbalah channel is on tv.kabbalah.info. So, if all you guys, after this is finished, we only have a few more minutes to go here. You're welcome to visit that site, watch all the videos there. There's lots of Q&A material there. Other things we recommend you to do, obviously, as we've been saying all night, but we just got word that we're over 600 viewers now. So, for all you new people who've come in, we did this Q&A celebration as preparation for the upcoming Learning Center course starting next week. If you didn't get your questions answered, because we just got hundreds of questions, we wanted to get to all of them, but we just couldn't physically. So take your questions to the course. You'll have instructors there, just like Gianni and Chris, each week for an hour and 15 minutes each week, able to answer your questions in this similar kind of setup. And if you don't get them answered live, you can also take them to the student forum there at the Learning Center after the lessons and get them answered by instructors and moderators there. Get to know others there, get to know a community. One thing that's very unique about Bnei Baruch is that it's a worldwide community. Actually, there's a question here I just saw before on something like that. I'm not sure exactly where it is now, but the question was something like, how do I study Kabbalah if there's no local center near me? Is it still the same benefits if it's an online course? And when you study at Bnei Baruch, you really see the full benefits of studying online, because in Bnei Baruch there's a worldwide classroom that's meeting for lessons and for friends gatherings and for conventions. And it's something very unique. Even someone just seeing it from the outside always sees that, it's something very unique happening in that kind of connection. Even if you go to kab.tv right now, you'll see this worldwide classroom of people who gather for the daily Kabbalah lesson, which actually takes place at the same time now as well with Dr. Michael Laitman. So that's happening now at kab.tv. You can also just check that out for a flavor. And that's Learning Center is really a great place to start your studies, meet other people with similar interests in spirituality and who have a curiosity in Kabbalah. And maybe you'll even find a whole new path for yourself, something that'll lead you to something much. Usually with Kabbalah, myself as a personal example and as others, it always just starts off with some kind of curiosity, some kind of, I don't know what this is, I'll check it out, even without kind of any excitement. And then when you start unfolding what it really has to offer, it's like something completely different and opposite, and it's like something opened up which you never would have thought would be possible to have opened up. And I'm sure that any one of these guys could account for that as well. So definitely, if you're on Kabbalah.info/live now and you're not signed up to the Learning Center course, go down, click on that free Kabbalah course banner, enter your details, sign up for the course. You can already start getting into the self-study materials, and you'll be able to meet with the instructors next week at the same time. Just check it out. There'll be a video there and explanations on all the kinds of things you can get there. We want to thank you all very much for coming tonight. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you both as well.
Oh, it's been fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And thanks also to our technical people who are on the other side of things and doing a great job. Everyone here is working voluntarily. just out of their own will to get this wisdom out, because it's such a great wisdom and you really get great things from it. And yeah, we hope you enjoy these clips we're closing with. They're all from the Kabbalah channel. Guys, start with number 7. These are all music clips, so please enjoy. And download the books on the page. You can click on that Tell Your Friends link, even though there's no friends to invite at the moment because we're finishing. You can download the materials on that page just by entering fake addresses. So take stuff and enjoy, and it's been a pleasure.
Good night.
Cobb TV. Watch your life make sense.
Let go the ego, why, why? That's all the ego wants to say to you. Let go the ego, why, why? It will do anything to make you stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, let's all rise up from the floor. 5, 6, 7, 8, because it's a brand new state. And when the ego starts complaining to you, turn around, by that you make it flop. Let go the ego, why? That's all the ego wants to say to you. Let go the ego, why? It will do anything to make you stop. Everybody wants to see a change, yet nobody wants to play the game. I'm not the problem, that is what we say. That's just the ego, it made us stop. Let go the ego, why? That's all the ego wants to say to you. Let go the ego, why? It will do anything to make you stop. Don't believe a word I say to you. Change your attitude and watch your nature bloom. All you have to do is make the efforts to turn around that ego and watch it flop. Let go the ego, why? That's all the ego wants to say to you. Let go the ego, why? It will do anything to make you stop. You gotta let go, you gotta let go. Let go of the ego right now. Let go of the ego right now. Let go of the ego right now. Now. Let go of the ego. Why? That's all the ego wants to say to you. Let go of the ego. Why? It will do anything to make you stop. It will do anything to make you stop. It will do anything to make you stop. Turn around that ego and watch it flop. Turn around that ego and watch it